Go.
St. Paul's Chapel. Some say it's the oldest building in the city. That's up for debate. Depends on when you talk about whether it was when it begun to be built, when it was finished to be built. There's other buildings that were built and then restored. And either way, it's safe to say that St. Paul's is the oldest public building and the oldest church in Manhattan. We can say that for sure. Built prior to Trinity Church that we saw earlier, and actually survived the Great Fire during the Revolutionary War that helped destroy Trinity Church. One of the reasons it was able to survive that fire is a couple of things. First of all, the British soldiers that were occupying the city, that didn't feel like particularly putting out the fire on a bunch of American people's homes. They were using this church as the officers' personal chapel, so they felt a need to protect that. Additionally, as you can see, the roof is relatively flat, especially compared to Trinity Church. And so people were able to get up on top of the roof and throw down sand or water or whatever to help put out the flames. Much like you would if your neighborhood was on fire, you'd get up there with a garden hose and hose down your roof. As you can see, oh, you can't see from here. Well, you could see if you step out here on the sidewalk. The river is just right over there, just past, and at that time it would have been just past where the Freedom Tower is now. So it was relatively easy to get a bucket brigade of British soldiers going from the river straight up here, up onto the roof, throw the water down, protect the church. So it's one of very few buildings to survive the Great Fire. Additionally to that, when this was the capital of the United States, George Washington was sworn in, an oath of office down there at Federal Hall. He came up here and went to church here at St. Paul's on his inauguration day. And in fact, this is where he went to church while he was in office. We'll walk through the inside. You should walk through the inside actually on your own when we're done. But the interior was designed by the same guy that designed Washington, D.C. later on. It's a very rational, very Enlightenment, very Federalist style architecture. And you can see it's very different from the dramatic, emotional style of Trinity Church. Very fitting for the beginning of the United States. The third major event that involves this church is one very recently. The World Trade Center towers would have been right there, as you can see, just across the street, very close by. And when the Twin Towers collapsed, the rubble and the debris and all of the burning ash and papers and office equipment and things that were falling from the sky were falling all over the neighborhood. Windows were being broken, buildings were being damaged all over the town, and actually they just found a piece of the landing gear just like yesterday in some strange place. They're finding bits and pieces everywhere. This church, right in the path of the debris, was completely unscathed by the disaster. A giant tree in the graveyard here, in the churchyard, caught most of the debris, fell down, and protected the church. Not a single window was broken, nothing was damaged on the building. And so, subsequently, when most of Lower Manhattan was evacuated, this became the center point, the command center for initially recovery and rescue efforts, and then eventually cleanup and recovery and reconstruction efforts. First responders, firefighters, people like that would be working right there at Ground Zero were able to come up here to the church and get a drink of water, get a snack, get a place to rest. And inside there's a very moving exhibit on these events. People who donated money and food and water to the recovery efforts were brought here, and this is where it would have been dispersed to the responders. A lot of people attribute a lot of spiritual significance to the fact that the church was spared from this disaster. And in fact, Giuliani made a speech talking about this church being a symbol of New York and a symbol, really, I think, of everyone in the world. Our spirit of recovery, our spirit of overcoming the odds. And like I said before, the attacks of 9/11 weren't just an attack on New York. They weren't just, no matter how much New Yorkers want to claim that as a source of personal pride, they were an attack on everyone, on globalization, on world trade. And the rescue efforts and then the recovery efforts that were spearheaded from this church were really something that everyone came together to carry out. The fact that nothing was disturbed there, and the fact that that this was the command center of the recovery and reconstruction efforts, meant that this became a memorial site, and memorials and mementos and posters and well wishes were on the fences all around here. Eventually they ended up having to put up more panels. I'm running out of steam here. Sorry. And the pews inside the church were opened for firefighters and cops to lay down and have a rest, and you can go in and see them, the damage done by all their heavy equipment. So I want to leave you here within sight of the new Freedom Tower and the spirit of rebirth and you know, screw you world, we're going to go on, and the spirit of St. Paul's Church, which, even if you're not a Christian, even if you're not a theist at all, it's a really moving testament to the ongoing spirit of humanity and globalization and people working together to make the world a better place and reaching out and helping one another. And this is really the spirit of New York encapsulated in one place. Commerce, rebirth down there, and charity and cooperation up here. And so with both of these things together, I want to leave you with the spirit of New York. We are really a friendly place. We really do want to help each other, but we also want to get ahead ourselves, and that makes it a very human place. So I'm going to leave you with that. I recommend you continue on through there by yourselves and take your time. And I thank you for your attention today, and thank you very much.